Is there somebody who could just shoot a message in the comment box and let me know that they can be heard, and also I can be heard here? Great, thank you, Ms. Furhunts. We'll wait just a minute or so. It seems as if the viewers are going up just a little bit here, so we'll wait till about 5:02 and then we'll get started. Great, I think we'll get started. We appreciate everyone joining us tonight. For those of you who don't know, I'm Jeff Walters, Superintendent at Hartford Union High School. Honored and privileged to be in my 5th year here as the leader of our district. I'd be remiss if I didn't thank all of our hardworking staff here in the mid to late month of May. With just 10 days remaining in the school year, the excitement of spring is certainly evident in the hallways. But certainly we've got work to do here as we finish up a successful 23-24 school year. There's a number of challenges that we're facing as a district, and that's why I wanted to take the time tonight to try to engage some of our stakeholders in those conversations. Before we do that, just some of the ground rules here. Again, for those people who have been with us, we did these a couple of years back in regards to some of the work around COVID and making sure that we got the appropriate messages out. We felt they were really successful at that time and wanted to provide the same opportunity here today. There is the comment box, and again, what I'll do here for the first 10 or 15 minutes or so is I'll kind of walk through some information, and then as that happens, feel free to enter any questions or comments you have in the comment box, or certainly wait until I'm done with my presentation to do that. But again, this worked really well a couple years ago. We certainly want to make sure we answer any questions that you have, so certainly encourage you to use the chat box to add those questions to the box. Thank you, Jenny. It's nice to have you join us. So first, before we talk about the 2 items for tonight, the budget and the community survey, I wanted to just throw a reminder out there because hopefully there's some listeners who maybe don't know Hartford Union High School. Maybe there's some families who have students at the elementary and middle school level. And I just want to take a brief moment to talk about who we are. Again, we are one of 10 Union High School districts in the state of Wisconsin. Okay, again, the ones closest to us are Nicolay, who's in our conference, Arrowhead, who's just south of us, and then besides Lakeland Union High School, which is up in Minocqua, the remaining Union High School districts are in the southern part of the state near the Illinois border. Again, we have 4 public K-8 districts that feed into us, the Erin School District, the Honor School District, Hartford Joint 1, and the Holy Hill Area School District, and then our 3 primary parochial schools, St. Killian's, St. Gabe's, and Peace Lutheran. When you talk about Hartford Union High School, we're really proud of the opportunities that we offer, whether it's that you're pursuing a career or college and post-secondary schooling. We offer 17 AP courses, 13 dual enrollment courses, which with most of them are transcripted with UW-Oshkosh. And again, dual enrollment means those kids can take those classes on our campus as our teachers have been approved to teach those college level classes. And then also 11 transcripted courses, with most of those being with Marine Park. We offer a large number of advanced placement courses. And again, some of the new offerings that we have in the last couple of years, aviation, esports, CNA, EMT, and our vision courses. One of the neat things that we have is a graduation requirement that does not just focus on credits. For some of you who might be in my age bracket, it was about we needed to earn 19 credits. We needed to earn 24 credits. Our graduates still need to earn 28.5 credits, but we also expect them to have experiences in college, career, and citizenship. We have a growing youth apprenticeship program where more than 75 students participate in work-based learning during the school day. And then, as a key fact, we prepare 50% of our graduates that pursue post-secondary institution. But the point that I want to make is we focus on providing all students a jump start to success after high school. With those in mind, I want to jump into one of the key challenges we have and also one of the key drivers to other conversations. Our district's budget. Approximately every year since I've been here in my 5 years, our budget has ranged in the area of $20 to $21 million. Now, while I didn't point out all of the breakdown, I wanted to point out some significant breakdowns within that $20 to $21 million. 60% of that goes to staff and salary and benefits. 8% of it is invested in our buildings and grounds and our facilities. 6% goes through the expense of open enrollment, which is the difference between kids leaving our district and kids coming to our district through that process. And then 3% is district debt. And that's based upon decisions by prior school boards. Rather than going to a referendum, if you borrow money as a school district, you have to include that debt in our annual budget. And the numbers that impact our annual budget here this year is somewhere between $600,000 and $650,000 each year. We are paying back on that debt that again was previously approved to invest in our facilities. There's some key drivers in regards to the school district's budget. Again, I know I saw some chatter on Facebook, but inadequate funding from the state definitely is one of those drivers. Okay, revenue limits that were established in 1993 are still in place. And I know the world has changed since 1993, but yet the way in which schools are funded has not. If the state funding would have kept up with the current rate of inflation, we would have received more than $4 million this year alone because of that change as it relates to inflation. Again, I talked about the inflation. That certainly is a driver to our budget challenges. Unfunded mandates by the state. As an example, one of the things I do is I advocate for kids to take college classes. If we don't have them on campus, I want them to be able to take them elsewhere. So when our kids and our families to decide to take college classes elsewhere, we pay for them. Okay, that's an expectation by the state. I really advocate for that, but yet it comes at a cost. And we're not going to stop advocating for it, but we have to be aware that that's kind of a mandate that comes to the state that is not funded. Declining enrollment is happening across the state. At this point in time, Hartford Union High School is very steady. We've averaged right over that 1,300 number mark in regards to how many students attend, but the statewide projections and our own projections tell a different story. Our classes at the lower levels in our K-8 districts that feed into us are no longer 3 or 4 sections. They're a section or 2 less than that. So the projection is certainly that we're going to have less students, and obviously with every student comes some funding from the state. In the last few years, for those people who have taken a look at our budget, you will see that at the highest points in our budget have been the last 3 years because of what was provided to us from the federal government in response to COVID. So we received ESSER dollars or COVID dollars, and we invested that back into a response to COVID, interventions, additional staffing, and things like that. So again, now that those funding sources are not available, that presents another challenge to us. And I want to reiterate, this is common across Wisconsin public school districts. I would encourage you to pick up the paper. The most recent article I saw this week was Mequon Homestead. They're facing a $6 million deficit, and they're citing the same challenges in regards to the funding, the inflation, and all of those factors as the reason why they're facing over a $6 million deficit. The next thing I just want to add quick is, so our projection is that our expenses again exceed our revenue. And in this case, in planning for the 24-25 budget, we're looking at a $1.6 million deficit. For those of you who followed along at board meetings recently, or other venues in which I've shared this, we've taken a number of actions in the last couple of months to try to address that shortfall. Okay, we're grateful for our partners at the City of Hartford who have agreed to a new SRO contract for our resource officer, who does a really nice job on campus each day. We've consolidated or changed the structure of some administrative staffing. So previously we had an HR supervisor and a director of business services. We now have that position combined into one person. We've taken 2 administrative contract associate principals and turned that into 1 administrative contract with an associate principal, and then 1 dean of students / assistant athletic director. We've reduced overtime. We've done a transportation audit. Again, when you're a district of 225 square miles, transportation again is a strong driver that impacts your budget. From an employee standpoint, we changed the distribution model, with HRA dollars, just so it gave us a more confident number in which we could predict instead of it being a reactionary process. And then we had a couple of mid-year staff retirements, and we redistributed the responsibilities without replacing those individuals. And then most recently at the board meetings, we've talked about some really difficult decisions. And again, I appreciate the courage and the problem solving, the solution focused desires of our leadership team, who has worked really hard to come up with decisions that are trying to keep the impact as far away from the classroom. Okay, so as some of those families that might be listening might know, we've reduced bus routes. Okay, so as of April 1st, we eliminated 2 morning routes. What we've learned in this process is that we want the same number of morning routes and the same number of afternoon routes, or there's a cost factor. And so to start the year, for a variety of reasons, we had 13 morning routes and 9 afternoon routes. Now we're at 11 morning routes and 9 afternoon routes. So while our goal is still to be equal, at this point in time, we can't get there in working with our partners from Right Way. But again, that was $100,000 savings by changing those bus routes. We've asked every supervisor of a department budget to eliminate by 10%. That's a $500,000 cost savings. We've eliminated music lesson instructors at a $40,000 cost savings. We've settled into a model of having 1 campus support person help support our building. The previous model was 2. We did not fill those positions, so we're going to stay with our current model with a cost savings of $33,000. We've reduced 5 teaching staff positions. 2 of them impact individuals. The other 3 were positions that were unfilled. So that comes with a cost savings of about $460,000. We've made adjustments to our coaching and our advisor structures, which collectively is about a $40,000 savings. And then we've recently advertised out that we're going to change the cash and lieu benefit for our employees. That comes with a cost savings of $109,000. So we've made some really difficult decisions, but we know we have to do this to make sure that we build trust and support of our community and our stakeholders, that we've continued to follow through in the process of making sure that we're living within our means and doing whatever we can to balance the revenue that we bring in as a district and the expenses that we have each year. So as we reflect on that challenge, it's also necessary for any organization or district to invest in its facilities instead of putting those challenges off for tomorrow. So while we continue to make difficult decisions, we also have taken a number of ways to make some decisions around facility investments. So we'll get into it a little bit later, but our Citizens Advisory Committee has spent a lot of time reviewing a facility audit. And at the heart of a lot of that is our infrastructure. So what we've done, or what we plan to do for next year, is address our rooftop units. And for those of you who are listening, know that we have not had heating in our English classrooms for a number of weeks and months this year. So we had to use temporary space heaters. We have over 80 main components in our HVAC system, and 60 of those are rooftop units. So we've replaced 5 of them in recent years. We're going to hopefully replace 9 more in the next coming 12 months. But that's 14 out of 60 rooftop units and 14 units out of over 80 main components of our HVAC system. With every remodel we've done in the last 5 years, we have replaced it with LED lighting, but that's only led to about 30% of our building having LED lighting. And then when it comes to the roofing standpoint, we have 280,000 square feet of roofing. We've replaced 21,000 square feet of that, and we have 80,000 currently that's been identified in poor condition. Okay? While we make these investments, we know we're better today than we were 5 years ago. So we have new science labs, we have a new fitness center and dance studio, we have a new library, we have a new wrestling room, we have renovated bathrooms, office spaces, and a drama lecture hall. We have partially renovated culinary labs and cafeterias, and a market cafe that is super popular with kids in the morning between first and second block and after school. We also know that we invested in our athletic facilities after the referendum failed. So a fourth of the cost of the tennis courts came from non-district dollars, and 3/4 of those dollars were district dollars that our school board decided to invest in our student athletes and our community who uses our tennis complex. And while I won't get into further details about that, I do believe it's a responsible decision to make sure that we do not put off all of our challenges until tomorrow. So currently, after the referendum failed in 2022, we still have other challenges besides providing safe playing surfaces for our tennis athletes, for our community. Okay, our track needs to be replaced. Our swimming pool is just sitting waiting to be an issue that a big decision is going to need to be made. If we would not have moved forward with the tennis courts, we'd have the swimming pool, we'd have the track, we'd have the tennis courts as all big issues that would come up at some point in the future, and the board would have to decide if we have a means, a way to address any of those. And when we identified the tennis courts as a primary need, the board acted and made that happen. So I just wanted to give a little background. Again, we can't save everything for tomorrow. Okay? Again, the investments for the tennis complex came from our fund balance, grants, and fundraising. And for those pickleball enthusiasts out there, I apologize that the new tennis courts cannot be pickleball based upon the grant from the Tennis Association. I just want to quickly, I mentioned fund balance. Okay? Fund balance is not intended for your annual operational costs. Fund balance is your go-to amount of money, your individual family savings account that is used for one-time expenses. Okay, it helps manage cash flow. So we do not have to short-term borrow. Okay, for those districts who have to short-term borrow, maybe to make payroll or other things, that comes at a price. We do not have to do that at this point. Back prior to my arrival in Hartford Union High School, the board decided to spend their fund balance down from the mid 40% down to 25%. Sitting here right now, we're around 30% fund balance, which again keeps us from having to short-term borrow. But again, that fund balance is for one-time expenses, unexpected costs. It maintains a higher credit rating, but it is not intended to address what I spoke about early tonight, which is your ongoing annual operational costs. So with that, I share my appreciation for the Citizens Facility Advisory Committee, which was approved by the board, and this group of citizens has been committed to identifying and representing our communities and the priorities for the betterment of Hartford Union High School. They have put in countless hours to review a facility audit from an outside contractor named Performance Services, and their goal in doing that was to identify our current state of the facilities and present options and solutions, develop some priorities, which they developed to address the essential facility conditions, improve learning environments, and provide safe and secure schools. And for the most part, they put the work into 3 buckets: infrastructure, which is buildings and grounds, learning spaces, and then outdoor facilities, and also the swimming pool, which I mentioned previously. The CFAC will use the survey results to make recommendations to the board this summer. And again, that community survey that showed up in your mailboxes, hopefully in the last week or 10 days, is open through May 31st. And again, if you have split perspectives in your family, like one of the individuals who called me today, we have extra copies available in the district office, and you can certainly contact myself or Ms. Trapp, my assistant, and ask for another copy of the survey and fill that out. Lastly, in the presentation that I linked in the chat box, this committee has not decided anything else besides a recommendation to the board to go to to offer the community survey. This survey will get feedback from our stakeholders, and that's why it's so important that you participate. On June 17th, School Perceptions, who's administering this survey, will share these results with our school board and our Citizens Advisory Committee, and out of that will come a decision in regards to any future recommendations. The last slide in the presentation talks about some referendum information. So if we take a journey of talking about our operational challenges and then just briefly talking about our facility challenges, I'm not going to go through the last slide with you, but there's a number of key aspects of that slide. Okay? There's a large percentage of districts who are or have lived under a referendum in the last 20 years. Okay? There's data there that talks about recent referendum passage. There's information there about the challenges that Mequon-Thiensville is facing. And again, they're not alone. West Bend to our east is going through the same challenges of reviewing their facility needs. Arrowhead Union High School south of us is going through the same process that we are. Again, we are very similar to other districts. And again, we appreciate your engagement, your collaboration, and your questions and interest in seeking solutions together as we move forward. Those are my opening remarks. Just about 20 minutes in, and I would love to take any questions, comments, or discussion in the chat box at this time. I am having flashbacks to a couple of years ago. There's always has to be somebody who goes first. So this is really comfortable and easy for everybody. So if there is somebody with a question out there, there's probably somebody who also has that question. So feel free to ask a question if you just make that comment in the chat box. I'll just wait a couple more minutes. Thank you, Jeremiah. I appreciate the question. What are the priorities of the board for which area to address first? They don't know that at this point. Again, I don't want to speak for the board, but they're really interested in getting the results of the survey from our stakeholders and hopefully using that to provide some direction. And having that committee kind of sort through that with them. Again, the committee's looked at a facility audit that identified all facility challenges, and again, the price tag on all of those facility challenges clearly exceeded $100 million. Okay, I want to make it very clear. There's no recommendation going forward in regards to $100 million being invested, okay, or maybe even something close to that. But that's what the audit showed, and then ultimately through this process of getting feedback from the community is the opportunity for the committee and the board to come together and identify where the priorities are. It's clear since 2022 we need to figure out how to build common support for challenges in our building, okay? And I'll use the swimming pool as an example because I know there was a number of people who questioned why the swimming pool was not part of the referendum previously, and where does that fall in regards to a priority. I have said in every opportunity that I've taken, the swimming pool needs to be addressed one way or another. Okay? It is old, and Arrowhead has the same challenge because we've talked about that amongst the districts. Okay? It is inadequate, it is old, it needs work, it costs $150,000 a year to maintain. So there needs to be some options explored regarding the swimming pool. You take the swimming pool then and multiply that across the other challenges that we have in our facilities, and the questions remain the same. Okay? Do you invest? Do you rebuild? Do you replace? And what is more important than other? And again, I'm going to go back to, that's why I believed it was important, and I thought our student athletes deserved a tennis complex that was safe and provided an opportunity to practice and play. Because if we did not address the tennis complex, we would have to address the tennis complex in the future or not have a tennis program. Just like we're going to have to address the swimming pool in the future, and the swimming pool comes at a much larger price tag than a track or tennis courts. And again, putting those all together in the future, to me, was just poor business. And that's why I encourage our board, which again, I appreciate their support for our student athletes and our students in Phi Ed class and our community residents who are going to benefit from the tennis complex on the corner for years to come. And frankly, I'm pretty proud of the intersection at Monroe and Cedar that we currently have as selling our district to others in regards to what that four-way intersection looked like just a few years ago. I appreciate the comment, Michelle. Again, June 17th, the results from the survey. Thank you, Ms. Cravey's on the call. She's our Director of Communications. She's just double checking to make sure everyone received their survey. Again, those surveys should have went out to all mailboxes. I even know that because of how the postal service works and the zip codes work, that even residents outside of our district boundaries got a survey. So hopefully everyone within those boundaries got it, but if not, please contact me. Danny Kipper, our outstanding musical director, thank you for the question. What challenges will we be faced with as a result of consolidating responsibilities and staff positions? You know, that's a great question, and I don't know if you have a specific question regarding a certain consolidation or position, but frankly, as leaders in education, when we talk to our lawmakers once a month, our message is that educators are being asked to do more with less. The challenges have never been greater, and the funding remains at the same level as it was back in 1993. And again, so yeah, we're all being asked to do more. We're all challenged by that, and yet that's the reality of the situation. And that's why I think it has to be very clear. What are we as a district willing to give up or not do or sacrifice if we continue to have the school funding formula from 1993 drive the revenue that comes into our district? Brian Walters, thank you for engaging. Once a referendum is passed, how are our stakeholders assured that the money will be spent in the terms of the agreed referendum? As an example, the pool is in desperate need for rebuild. What sets the priority list? Okay, so I appreciate your engagement. I appreciate your confidence. We are not yet in a place that a referendum is being recommended as a solution. We are not yet at a place where the board has approved a recommendation to go to referendum, nor are we at a place where a referendum has passed, but I certainly appreciate your positive energy. That ultimately is all part of the process. I do not know what has happened in this district previously, but I'm super confident in our leadership team and our buildings and grounds supervisor, who has taken a lead on a lot of that work since she's been here. There'll be a super transparent process. And again, through some of the questioning, as far as how that referendum question is worded, helps define where those investments needed to be made or need to be made. Matthew, thank you for the question. Can the referendum be split into 3 separate referendums? Facilities, learning spaces, outdoor spaces, and maybe a 4th for the pool alone? No, but I like the idea. A district is allowed to ask 2 questions within a set amount of time frame. So you can't even return within 6 months and ask a third question. So there's certain rules behind that. But one of the options on the table for the board to consider, based upon the feedback, certainly would be asking 2 separate questions. And again, that will be for that facilities committee to kind of review the recommendations and decide if that might be an appropriate direction to go. But again, the maximum is 2 questions, like some of our neighbors have done and have successfully passed 2. Some Economwalk, I think, asked 2 questions recently. They passed 1, lost 1. I think Sussex Hamilton asked 2, and I think they passed both of them. And again, so that's a certain strategy or a certain ask, depending on how you want to ask those questions and divide up the ask of our stakeholders. But very, very good question. Again, the max is 2 questions. I think I'm caught up now. Again, feel free to throw some additional questions in the chat box. I can't tell if that's a comment coming in from Matthew that says something about we live just blocks from the school with a student in school and more to come. If that's an answer to you didn't receive a survey, all parents should have received an email regarding the survey from School Perceptions, and all community residents should have received a paper copy of the survey in their mailboxes. Other questions or comments? Michelle, thank you for the question. Is consolidation with the feeder schools on the table? I hear rumors. Good question. There are 10 Union High School districts in the state of Wisconsin. There's been no consolidation in recent years. I do know the Wilmot Union High School District is having those conversations after a number of failed referendums. I have shared out that sharing resources across all districts, whether that's a K-8 district or a K-12 district in a neighboring town, might be a great way to address some of the fiscal challenges. I don't believe there's interest at this point in time from other districts, but I do know that our lawmakers are trying to incentivize consolidation as a way to see if districts are interested in doing so. I think there are some efficiencies that we can create by sharing resources, but I can't predict what the future might be in regards to consolidation with any of the K-8s. There's a process you have to go through. It has to be a certain percentage of approval by the stakeholders in the district, and there has to be more than a school board interested in doing so. So there's certainly a lot of steps, a lot of hurdles to making that happen. If anyone's interested in making that happen, and again, that's a multi-year process that isn't going to impact anything here in the near future. But I appreciate the question, and I'd certainly love to talk about that topic with anybody else who's interested. But I appreciate you not believing rumors either. That's always, sometimes we get sidetracked is rumors or social media chat. I have great appreciation for all of those individuals who seek the truth, seek the transparent information that we're willing to provide. And again, I think the budget is a great example. Okay, we're not sitting on a pot of money. We just don't have it. Okay, we're trying to be good stewards of our district's dollars, and that's why we're at that point in our fund balance where, while we don't short-term borrow at this point, that's certainly on the horizon. And I would never want to be the leader of a district who's starting to have to pay interest because we have to short-term borrow because we continue to tap into our fund balance to address some of the needs that we have. Any other questions? I will hold another one of these next Thursday at the same time. I would hope that those people who joined us today can bring a friend or two. Beth Candace, if I'm matching up the name with the phone call today, a shout out to my new friend Beth, who called today to seek some answers on some questions. One of the questions that I believe it was Beth who called earlier today was how many kids are taking tech ed classes? How many kids are taking ag classes? Because those certainly are part of the questions in the survey. And while I can't tell you how many individual kids, what I can tell you is there's 1,200 requests for a tech ed class. Okay? And to my knowledge, there's no high school who has more than 7 tech ed teachers and has more lab space than we do. So when there's 1,200 course requests, I think that speaks volumes about the tech ed offerings that we have. And then I shared with Beth as well that there's 400 requests in the ag science area. So when I started 5 years ago, we had 2 agri-science teachers, and one of them dabbled a bit in science to be full-time. Now both of those individuals are teaching ag science classes as full-time teachers. And frankly, they deserve spaces that they can continue to grow their program and do the outstanding work. Miss Strupp, Miss Yan, and you know, Miss Yan even being recognized as a Herb Cole Fellow Award winner this year, I think tells the story about the impact that she has through her coursework and also through the FFA program. So back to your question, Beth, I appreciate the opportunity to talk about the questions you asked earlier. But is a dedicated performing arts space considered a necessity or something nice to have? That's been discussed at the committee level in regards to that. I don't have an answer as far as my personal opinion. I do know the district engaged in conversations regarding that when the shower center was built. But to me, a performing arts space is similar to any other piece of this conversation that we're talking about. Does our district believe that we should have a swimming pool? Does our district believe we should have an 8-lane swimming pool? Does the district believe we should have a diving well in the swimming pool? Does our district believe our kids deserve a new track? Does our district believe we need a dedicated performing arts space? That's why we need the feedback from the community survey to kind of sort through some of the information that we think we know and balance that with the information that we're giving to hopefully make a recommendation to the board in regards to how to address some of the facility needs we have. Sally, I appreciate the question. Will the number of responses to the survey set which referendum will be voted, or is there a limit? I don't know if I follow your question. I'll do the best I can. So school perceptions will share the data with our committee and our school board. The school board ultimately will decide what to support in regards to a question, or if there's a question they will support. I believe it's super important that any referendum question that would be moved forward is unanimously supported from our school board. And if it's not, I think that challenges the district to support it overall. There's a limit to the questions. Again, you can only ask 2 questions on any given referendum. But again, school perceptions has done this across the country. And so what they're going to do with those survey results is they're going to sit in the room, and I can hear them saying, this would not be a great decision to go to referendum, or I think if you went to referendum for this amount based upon these results, you might have a chance to successfully pass a referendum. Their analytics of their survey results in every district that they've done this in, and they're the leader in school survey results for referendums, give an accurate prediction about the success of a referendum passing. And we have to trust, my recommendation is we have to trust those results. Hopefully I at least got close to answering that question, Sally. Jim, thank you for the question. What's the cost of school perceptions? So I believe the survey cost is over $9,000, if I remember. And great question, because one of the things we did not do back in 2022 is use school perceptions, because myself as the superintendent did not think that I at that time wanted to invest that cost. And one of the thoughts that I've had since 2022 is our approach had no ability to get to every mailbox and guarantee that there was an individual code for everybody. It was more of a, we could communicate to parents, and that was about the extent of our ability and the approach we had in 2022. Going through the process, being part of some of the committee conversations, having the committee recommend to the school board that school perceptions do the survey and invest those dollars that hopefully are a wise investment to the work that needs to be done, is the direction that the board chose to go this year. But I appreciate that question, Jim. That's a good question. You guys have done a great job. These are really good questions. Again, this is something that's accessible after we end the live video here tonight. Again, so please encourage your friends, your network, your relatives to go back and watch our conversation. Again, the first thing in the chat box is the presentation linked that kind of walks through our current budget conversation, some of the information about our prior investments, and then also some information about the community survey. So any other questions here this evening? Yep, good point, Ms. Verhunts. Again, there's my email. If anybody has any follow-up questions, or like I said, I appreciate the couple of phone calls I received today. The only way we can do this is doing it together and figuring out what the right way to address our needs is. And again, we know the challenges, but again, we're not going to use those challenges to sacrifice opportunities that we continue to provide students as well. So again, we've got to keep the impact of these decisions as far away from kids, but I will also say our students deserve better, and our students deserve the same opportunities that students do across the rest of our conference, or across the rest of our county, and across the state of Wisconsin. Let's invest in kids and figure out the right way to do that. Are there any other questions? I appreciate that, Jeremiah. I appreciate you joining us tonight. Like I said, a week from now, 5 p.m. next Thursday, hopefully we'll reach some additional stakeholders, and appreciate all you guys can do to encourage that to happen. I'll just give it another minute or two, and then I'll wrap up the stream for tonight. We made it to 5:45. Again, any last questions or points of discussion, or things that you want me to answer in some other way, I'd be more than interested in taking those questions and sharing them back out on our other social media channels as well. I do appreciate you guys joining us again. If you go to our district's website, I'd also encourage you, since you showed interest tonight, that we now use something called board docs to house all of our supporting materials for our school board meetings. You will see for the past 6 months that there's presentations on enrollment projections, there's presentations on budget, there's our audit from the 22-23 school year, there's the process and information regarding the budget discussions and reductions. Those documents are all there, and frankly, each month our financial documents are there as well. and you can definitely see how the district is spending money line by line, how we're investing those dollars. And if you ever have any questions, again, that's a great place to go and check out some of those artifacts to get those questions answered. And if not, and if they raise more questions, I'd encourage you to send those my way. So again, I appreciate everyone joining us tonight. Thank you for your time. And as always, go Orioles, and I look forward to future conversations. Thank you, everybody.